everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. I am Caitlin Rose and you are watching Caitlin Rose TV. Today's video is my TBR list for the month of August. If you don't know what a TBR list, it's essentially a list of books that you want to read in a certain amount of time. So it could be for a certain year, for half a year, for a month. So this is my one for August. For me, a TBR list isn't something I necessarily strictly stick to. It's more of like a loose idea of range of books that I've seen that I really want to read, but some of them might get pushed aside if I find other ones that I'm really interested in. So it's not a set list for me, it's more like a list of ones that are a main priority to read, but not necessarily something that I'm gonna end up reading in the month of August. I have a list of physical TBR, which are the books that I actually have physically, and then there's other ones that I have that I'm either gonna order them to have them in a physical book, or I might get the ebook version of it on the Kindle. I'm not 100% sure yet. It depends on a lot of things, whether I really want the book or whether I just really want to read it. So I'm going to start with my physical TBR. The first book, I have actually read a couple chapters of it. I started it in the video I uploaded last week or a few days ago, depending on when this video is going up. It's A Court of Thorns and Roses. I started it in my 24-hour reading challenge, and then I wasn't in the mood or the headspace for the fantasy, so I put it down because I want to read it to fully understand the book, and I just wasn't in that headspace where I could do that. Like I said, this book is technically classed as a romantasy, so it has a lot of fantasy elements and the main storyline is in this fantasy world, but there's also a lot of romance in it that's also part of the main storyline. The second book I have in my physical TBR is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I am fully aware that I'm very late to reading this book as to when it was extremely popular. I remember it was extremely popular, I think in 2021 or 2022 during quarantine, and I just never really got round to reading it, but I also wasn't reading that much in quarantine because I was stressed with school stuff and stressed with the whole COVID things that were going on, so I didn't actually read that much. But I do want to read this because this is one of the ones this is one of the ones my sister got me last year when she went to Portugal, because in Portugal they have the world's oldest bookshop there, and she got me this book, Red, White and Royal Blue, and I think maybe one more, but I can't remember which one it is right now off the top of my head. So yeah, this is classed as a contemporary fiction romance book. I love my romances. But something I did want to do this month is expand my genres, because I always say that I want to expand and then I always fall back on just reading YA books or romantasies, whether it's a normal romance in some way or whether it's mixed with sports or whatever. I always fall back on romances. So the next book I picked up is one that I've actually been wanting to read for quite a while, but I just never got around to buying it, and then I finally found it in a bookstore, and I found the hardcover, and it wasn't expensive for it to be a hardback cover, which is 1984. This is a science fiction book. I don't think I've read a science fiction book before, but I was really intrigued by this book and I've been intrigued by it for a while, so I definitely want to read this one in the month of August. The next one is The Deal, which is the first book in the off-campus series, but I never really got around to reading them, and so it's a sports romance book. I just want to make sure that it is what I'm thinking. I want to say the guy in this that's included in the romance is a hockey player, but I could be wrong. But yeah, this is one of the ones that I wanted to read because I do want to start to read more series, like the Akatar series I want to read. I want to read the Off-Campus series. There's a couple of other series that I've seen that I want to read as well. The next book that's on my physical TBR list is The Way I Used to Be, which is classed on Goodreads as a romance, but it's also in the mental health genre, which I found really interesting. So I really want to read this one. To be honest, I don't really know what this one is about. I haven't read the blurb, but I just heard a lot of good reviews about it, and I've really loved the aesthetic of the book. But I'll read it, and I'm pretty sure I'll like what it's about because it's a romance. And as I've said, I love a romance. The last one that I have here in my physical TBR is All the Light We Cannot See, which is classed as a historical fiction. I love fiction books. I don't know if I've ever read a historical fiction book though. Maybe I have. I think I have because I think The Book Thief was a historical fiction, and I did read The Book Thief. So maybe I have read a historical fiction, possibly. But now I'm going to move on to my non-physical TBR list. I have my list here on my laptop because it's just easier for me to remember all of the genres and the books that they are. The first one I have on my list is one I was looking at because I'm watching the final series not final. It might be final, I don't know if it's the final series or not, but the most recent series of Criminal Minds that came out, the Criminal Minds Evolution. I'm watching it with my mum, and I love psychology, I love criminology, I love all of those types of things, so I thought, why not try to find a book that has those kind of vibes. So I did some research, and I found a book called The Seven She Saw. I don't know if I pronounced that clearly enough. The Seven She Saw. It's by Elle Gray, and it's classed as a thriller mystery and a crime book, which was right up my alley, and it's also based on FBI, and I think it's part of an FBI book series that the author did. So I'm really hoping I like the first one, and then that's another series I can start. The next one on my non-physical TBR list is Wild Love by Elsie Silver, which is the first book in the Rose Hill series, and that is classed as a romance, but I have heard a lot of good reviews about it, and it's also, again, a series. I want to read more series. But yeah, I've heard a lot of good reviews about it, and it just sounds like a book that I'd really enjoy. The next one is a book that I was almost gonna start in my 24-hour readathon challenge, but I ended up picking Summer Romance instead, and I'm glad I did because Summer Romance, I ended up giving it a 5-star, and I found a 5-star read, which I was really happy about. But the book that I almost picked up instead of that one was Mrs. Nash's Ashes. Quite honestly, because I was watching Destiny Sidwell's video, and our taste tends to be quite similar based on the reviews and ratings that I've given books and she's given books, and she said she really enjoyed that book, so I wanted to give that one a go, and that's also a romance. I think the last few are quite all based on romance, to be fair. The next one is Happy Place by Emily Henry, which again is a romance. The next one is a novel love story by Ashley Poston, which is a romantasy, so it's a fantasy with romance, or a romance with fantasy, depending on what way they scale up to each other. But I'm really intrigued because I do like the idea of romantasies. And I love going into the romance side of it because I love romance books and I love love stories, but I also like the fantasy elements of it, because I grew up watching a lot of like fantasy movies of like Narnia and Harry Potter, and when you're taken away from what is the real world and you go into a completely different realm that has its own timeline or is its own place, it's really just therapeutic escapism, but it's free. Well, not entirely. If you have to buy the book, it's not technically free, but it's cheaper than actual therapy. The next one is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is, I think, the first one in the series she has. I think it's Powerless, Powerful, and Reckless, possibly. If that's wrong, I will correct myself later on, which is also a romantasy. The Book of Doors is the one that's next on my list, which is by Gareth Brown, which is just a fantasy book. It's not classed as a romance in any way, it's just a fantasy book. With the last two that are on my list is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, which is one that I've been wanting to read for a really, 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 really long time. Since it blew up maybe a year or 2 years ago on TikTok, and I just didn't get round to it, which is a romance. And the last book is Wildfire by Hannah Grace, which is a sports romance. It's the second book, or the like continuation book from Icebreaker, which I did read, and I really enjoyed that book, and I read it quite quickly, to be fair. I read it, considering I had school and everything going on, I read it in like 2 days, if that. It was a really quick read, so I did want to read the second book of it because I really enjoyed the first one. I'm just hoping it holds up to the same standard as the first one did. So yeah, that is my August TBR list for this month. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this, and check out my social medias that are linked in the description below.